the question is, while this is happening, for you to think about, is what sparks joy in your life? Because Marie Kondo asked the question of all the junk that she's throwing out. She says, hey, only keep this if when you look at it, it sparks joy. So what is it in your life?
Live stream the meeting.
What is it in your life that sparks joy? It could be a thing, could be an experience, could be a place. It could be whatever it is. Have a think about it. It could be an event. It could be a category of things. Could be traveling. Could be eating. Could be whatever. I don't know. What? Have a think about it. I'm going to circle back to that. Could be doing a very Christian thing, spending time with God in the Word, devotionals and study. That's all. It's everyone's answer, right?
Jesus.
So, what sparks joy in your life? So I could have probably entitled this thought something else like the tyranny of leading on the wrong side of Christmas. I could have entitled it that. Does that sound familiar? Can you join the dots? Or what about this? The Santa Claus syndrome. And this is about leadership, the Santa Claus syndrome. And let me explain the Santa Claus syndrome, because of all the people who it's likely aren't going to enjoy Christmas, it's going to be Santa Claus and the elves, right? They're the ones who are absolutely, particularly Santa Claus and the reindeer, they're flat out at Christmas. They got a lot going on. High responsibility life. And for some reason they wait for one day. I'd probably do it differently. I'd space it out. We all get the same stuff. Just space it out. Just take the pressure off. So I don't know why he does that, but he does. And he's not listening to Mrs. Claus, because she'd have a system in place whereby they'd be a lot less stressed. Imagine the anxiety leading up to that day as your Santa Claus. Wow. Anyway, Santa Claus syndrome. So that's the reason I say that, is because as leaders in some worlds, this time of year is probably the hardest time of year to be a leader. And it's not just churches, but, there's other like retail outlets where they might make 90% of their revenue in this month. I remember working with a friend of mine who we were in business together, actually, doing websites, for those of you who remember those days. But he had another business before that where he would make hampers. Him and his wife had a small business, and they literally did like 90% of their business at Christmas and at Mother's Day. Like that was kind of like, that was it. And the rest of the year was just like stock control. And there's another business that you guys might be aware of. It's a local Christian business, Sister and Soul, who make like jewelry and stuff, costume jewelry. Like they're the same. Like this is where they just recently moved into a big warehouse just ready for this Christmas season. They're just an online business, and they're hectic this time of year. And then there is the church, where being the church at this time of year, it doesn't just equal busy, because this is where the church is different to every other organisation, every other retail outlet at this time of year that is busy and does 90% of their trade this time of year. Being the church, we actually do have a pointy end of the year when it comes to, reaching our community, and Christmas and Easter for us are those times of year, but Christmas especially, because it's everyone else is also heightened, and everyone else is also busy, and everyone else has also got a lot going on, and also end of a year. So there's this whole mentality around this time of year of resetting, reconfiguring our, and we're coming off the back of a 1 in 100 year event. So this particular year in itself has a lot of layers, right, of complication and tension when it comes to leading. But being the church, in addition to all that, it's not just being busy at this time of the year. It's not just busy activity, but it's also spiritually active. So there's a huge amount of spiritual activity that happens at this time of year, because as a church, you guys know this, that we're forging ahead with kingdom purpose. And whenever the church moves forward, which is what we're doing, we're going to meet opposition. And so we are busy working, and we're also busy being attacked by the opposition. And this, if you read the story of Nehemiah, that was his story as he and his as the nation of Israel rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem. They were, on one hand, troweling up the wall, and on the other hand, they had a sword in hand to defend against attacking. And it's like us at Christmas, because we're busy doing the work that we know we get to have to do, and on the other hand, we're also having the sword, having to fight our spiritual battle, because we are going to meet opposition. So we should know this is normal, right? We should know this is to be expected. But this is the point I'm leading to when it comes to Marie Kondo. And I know you're already joining the dots here. So this is normal and to be expected as the church and as leaders of the church. But we actually do still need to enjoy this season, the season to be jolly in the right sense. Because enjoying this season isn't just for our benefit, and I want it to be. I want you as leaders to enjoy this season for your own benefit, but enjoying this season will also benefit those that we lead. Because here's the truth, joy in your world equals joy in the world. Joy in your world equals joy to the world. The Jesus alive and at work and who's inspiring and, invigorating you at this time of year is the same spirit, the same life that's going to be coming out of you into the lives of those you lead. And so it is important that you as leaders are actually properly enjoying this time of year. So we have this tension of being busy, and we have this hard work and opposition versus leading from a genuine place of joy. So like I said, I'm going to keep this short because I want to hear from you. Just tell me, what is it in your world that sparks joy for you? And I want you to verbalize it, because I think that might help you to be thinking about how you can begin to or continue to include that in this time of year. Because the most important thing for you is for you not to get to the end of 2020 and be feeling like, wow, like we worked really hard, we did a great job, but we didn't enjoy it. Because the truth is that the people you're leading also won't enjoy it. They'll just be worn out. They might think we've done a good job, but really, again, we don't want a culture of doing a good job. Like, we want a culture of fun. We want a culture that inspires people. We want a culture that cares for each other. We want a culture that speaks to what it's like to be, in the kingdom of God, heaven on earth. So what is it in your life, friends and family out there, that sparks joy for you? So why don't we start with our good order of good reports, and we'll start with Sam. Sam, what in your world makes you a happy man?
I've got a couple of things. On a personal level, sport makes me happy. If I'm completely honest, playing sport makes me really happy. And the other thing is seeing people say yes to Jesus brings a lot of joy, and I like seeing, especially young people in particular, seeing them say yes to Jesus and take their next step. I think is a massive thing that brings me joy. And to see that our youth, so many youth, be it Beyond Basics on yesterday, was a massive win. And also seeing, I walk away from our Scone youth trips with probably the most joyous part of my year, because they're all Richie's with me, because they're all growing and stepping into what God's calling them to do, and all that. So that probably, in terms of pointing to something this year, that's probably the most joyous thing that I've had, is walking away from those Scone mission trips and going, yeah, wow, that was awesome.
So you're saying to keep joy like fresh in your life, you should be having a Scone mission trip on a weekly basis. Is that what you're saying? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
The Murrays and Richard are like, yeah, that's exactly what
I heard. Let's get a new bus, one that doesn't slow down on the hills.
Well, let's go to Scone. Let's mix it up. Let's go to Richard. What sparks joy for you, Richie?
Hanging with Jesus. I just love my mornings, and any other time that I can just chat to him. What's going on? And reading his word and being blown away just by who he is and what he does. And Sam just said salvations. Hanging around nude converts is really, really a buzz. I just love it because he does stuff in them that sometimes you wish you could have a dose of that, because it's different for everybody, you know, what he does. It's very exciting. Bike trips with mates is very exciting. But the reason that's predominantly exciting is just hanging with people. I love people. I love hanging out with you guys. That's a highlight of my day, just stuff like this. Dinner with friends, giving, that gives me great joy. Shopping is cool, not by myself, that's with other people. Power, I love power. I like lightning, I like thunderstorms, I love healings. If someone gets raised from the dead, I'm just tripping. I love investigating and finding out the truth about stuff. Is that enough for now?
That's awesome, Rich. So good. Love it. So good. I love how you talk there about your morning and spending time with God. And this is, I mean, the mornings are powerful. To be honest, I'm not a morning person. I get up early, but I'm not a morning person. However, the power of your morning is really an unmatched power for so many reasons. And if you can own your morning, if it can be your time to insert into that the thing that does really spark joy for your life, that's going to be a game changer, an absolute game changer. And we talk about your words of God, your meditation time and time with God and all that. And you don't have to do it in the morning, but there is something special about the first thing that you do being something that you own, that it's not being directed by someone else, and you can just be with yourself and with God. And that's a powerful thing. During the season where we can be busier, if we want to be able to keep joy full in our life, then maybe we could begin to prioritize the morning and just giving ourselves a bit of a, whatever it takes kind of an attitude towards just spending a little bit of time on our own with God in the morning. So for what it's worth, that's awesome, Rich. Love that. What about you there, Andrew Murray? What sparks joy for you? Mushrooms?
I'm actually reading this book at the moment. It sounds like a Joel Osteen book, but it's called Creating Your Best Life. And it's all about setting goals and things like that. And it's actually made me realize I actually really get a lot of joy out of being creative and achieving things and, working at things. That actually really, really brings me a lot of joy. And I think, being an extrovert, I actually really do love spending time with people, just in a really kind of unstructured, non-agenda, like we're just hanging out and we'll have a chat, and maybe there's food involved, maybe there's drink involved, whatever it is, just spending time with people really fills my cup.
Yeah, good. That's good. Yeah, you're right. I think what you said there about just being with people just for the purpose of being with someone, that's where there's no agenda other than just relationship building. And for lots of people, that does spark, a lot of joy. A lot of people, that scares them because they struggle with the idea of not having structure and not knowing what's going to take place relationally. But for others, that's really exciting, and there's potential in there. So that's cool. Different personality types, of course, but
yeah,
that's good. And it is hard this time of year to be with others just for time's sake, because we're so busy, right? So it could be that, you do need to make sure that you've got a little bit of time with some people over the season so that you're not, just stuck with people doing work, doing jobs. Let's go with Kate. What sparks joy for you, Kate?
Well, I'm an introvert, but the thing that brings me most joy is spending time with people who I love. The spending time with people who I don't know well is the thing that probably drains energy for me as an introvert, but spending time with people I love is something that really fills my tank. And if that also includes good food and the beach, then even more joy. And I had another thing I was going to say, and I've just forgotten what it was. That was the other thing I was going to say. Worship through music, so both corporately and personally on my own. That's another thing that really brings joy and fills my tank as well.
Yeah, great. What about you, Natalie?
I think we've got a common theme going here: spending time with people.
Ah.
What does spark a lot of joy for me personally is spending time with my husband, obviously. Exercise. I really like my time working out or running or whatever I decide to do. And yeah, with people, it's sort of like I think too, like being here and being part of all the teams and everything here. Just being with people and watching people grow and that sort of thing's really exciting, and being alongside some of them, that to me just gets me really excited. And those who might know my love languages or something often know that gift giving is not a love language whatsoever of mine. But I'm proud to say the Lord gave me a lot of joy yesterday. I have a big box full of gifts that I wrapped yesterday, even with little bows on them and everything. But that's just because there's people who in my life have just really brought lots of joy. So I thought, well, I'm going to burst out of my little normal world and people are going to get gifts this year.
Good on you, Natalie. That's awesome, especially if I'm a recipient of a gift. All right.
Not on that list. No, you didn't.
All right. What about you, Murray? Sparks joy for you?
Yeah, so I already shared a moment that sparked joy for me yesterday when I was outside church, and I was just reflecting on that. And I think for me, it's the moment at which growth towards God's plans are revealed in people or situations. So there's growth, but it's God's plan. So I think that's why that was such an intense moment of joy for me. Nothing sparks joy in me like a baptism, right? That's like the most joyful, like more than a wedding. But I was also just reflecting like on Andrew's graduation at Alpha Crucis a few years ago. That was so intensely joyful. New church plants, like that's so amazing. But also I was just thinking just this week, another moment of intense joy for me was I teach a student in year one who can't speak English well or at all really. And the kids in the class wrote Christmas cards for each other. And there was one girl who went to the effort of looking up how to write in Chinese to write to him in the card to give it to him. And like I was so blown away that I started to cry because this girl like is being Jesus, is being inclusive. I don't know if she knows Jesus, but that was so beautiful. So that's what it is for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. What are you, Rach?
One of mine is similar to what Beck was saying, I think, which is those moments that you don't tend to get very often in parenting, where you can see growth or you can see alignment of values that you've been trying to teach for a long time. So the actual detailed day-to-day of parenting, I don't find that enjoyable, but you have moments where, you know, we took our kids out for dinner on Thursday night to celebrate them, and we, you know, had the intentionality of having conversation around the table and asking some specific questions, and just got some surprising responses, and it made us feel joyful because we're like, oh, like we can see some growth there. You know, you don't see it very often, you don't see it all the time, but when you can, I guess it's the same as what some people have been saying about it's almost like a fulfillment of a goal or a dream. Like you get that joy of, yeah, we made it, or we're making it, or it's gonna be okay. So that's one of them. One of them is like sunrises and sunsets, experiencing sunrises and sunsets. One of them is similar to Kate, like being outdoors and walking, but listening to worship music. I basically only ever listen to worship music when I'm walking because that's just such an enjoyable time with God for me. And I intentionally, when I'm running, I don't enjoy running that much. So when I go for a run, I make sure I have time where I'm just walking so I can enjoy the music and be thinking about my conversation with God, and instead of thinking about not dying. And then, you know, when you were talking about, you know, being intentional this season, and this is something that I've reflected with Luke about, where I sometimes find that I don't enjoy I love Christmas, and I love a lot of the activities and traditions around Christmas, and I love to do things like, you know, bake cookies with the kids and give them to the neighbours and package them up, or make gingerbread houses, or watch Christmas movies, or, you know, prepare an item for the family Christmas Eve concert or whatever. And then sometimes I overbook myself with the busyness of the work life of Christmas, and then I lose my enjoyment of Christmas because I haven't made time for the things that do bring me joy at Christmas that are just personal and separate from, you know, the business of putting on Christmas productions and such. So there are some specific things that bring me joy at this time of the year that I'm trying to be intentional to make room for.
And, you know, if I just, well, I better share what sparks joy for me. Similar to Natalie, I do like to do physical kind of activity. I do like, you know, going to the gym, and it's not just because I like the gym. It's time alone, which I really enjoy. And I think the older I'm getting, the more I'm enjoying time alone. And I like being able to just, you know, in this job where you don't do a lot of manual work, it's just really good to be able to lift up something really heavy and chuck it around and smash something. I'm really pleased they've got a boxing bag at the gym that I go to. The last couple of times I've been there, I've done like a lot of boxing. It's a lot of fun. So I enjoy that. And I like eating. Like, I love going out and having a really nice dinner somewhere and taking the time just to enjoy, you know, a nice night out with Rachel, and just, you know, just relaxing again, like no agenda, no work, no parenting, just chilling out and just enjoying the food and, you know, reflecting on really simple things and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I kind of like, yeah, what sparks joy in me is kind of bring everything really like down to very kind of primal kind of experiences, like lifting things and pushing things and eating things and drinking things. So yeah, I don't know what that says about me. Probably, who knows? But there you go. That sparks joy. So wrapping up, it's 1:00. I just wanted to say to you, as our, you know, key team and key leaders of Beyond Church, that like if you are like 100% smashing it out over this next season, but don't find time to do the things that spark joy, you at 100% joyless is not as effective as you at 70% joyful. So, you know, do what you need to do to spend the time to spark joy for yourself, because, you know, I would rather have someone functioning at, you know, 70% capacity but being absolutely overflowing with joy than someone running themselves at 100% but being joyless. Because again, it's not just joy for you, because, you know, you being joyful brings, you know, joy to the world, and I want to know that you guys are doing